This is Monty once again from DPL Surveillance Equipment. It's me and my cat, Lazy Bones. You hear him? Say it again, Lazy Bones. He's there, definitely. He's going to be chiming in every once in a while I do my morning chores and bring you, hopefully, some interesting tidbits of information every once in a while. This morning, we found something interesting. Before we get to it, I just want to let you know I'm owner of DPL Surveillance Equipment. We're a full-service surveillance and security equipment company. We have lifetime guarantees and warranties on all the products. 24/7, 365 tech, sales, and customer support. The largest inventory of items that not only can you buy, but you can rent or lay away as well. We do accept Bitcoin, and we have an extremely large amount of educational information to teach you about surveillance, counter-surveillance, electronic harassment and prevention, all sorts of different things on the website. Go there, take a look, and let us know what you think. We just revamped it, and we're proud to say that it looks nice, and it seems to work very efficiently, very quickly, very easy to navigate, I think. And it should be very mobile-friendly. So, for what it's worth, go there and check it out. Now, today's podcast focuses on, it really confirms something that we've been saying a long time, at least in Bitcoin years, talking about how the current financial system is so old and dilapidated, and it's breaking down, and it really could stand to just be thrown into the trash bin of history. The old legacy financial system, the way it operates, the things that it puts us through, is just unwarranted and unnecessary in this day and age. I'll give you an example. This podcast focuses on a lady. Her name is Mary Ann Liegey, Liegey. She's from Manhasset, New York. She actually goes to church, a frequent church goer, and the old lady, grandmother of 2 or 3, and she had her little checking account with CitiBank, otherwise known as Citigroup. At least that's the umbrella corporation for CitiBank. A lot of you may recognize it as CitiBank or Citigroup, same operation, same company. But anyway, Miss Mary Ann Liegey, she wrote a check to her church one day, just $20, and the check came back, and it was tabbed as, or labeled as insufficient funds, right? So Miss Liegey, grandmother of 2 or 3, church-going lady, she's surprised, of course, just like you would be, in terms of what happened. Come to find out, Citibank flagged her account, identified her as a terrorist. Now, a little backstory. This incompetent retards in the federal government had decided to go to the banks. All major banks have this thing where they have to get their customers to comply with know your customer rules and regulations. This means even if your account has very little money, very little activity, it's just basically been sitting there forever, they are compelled to send out letters and notices. I even got a notice myself, so I can tell you from personal experience that they will give you a notification. In my case, I got a notification on my account, on the actual account. Because I log in every day and I do my balance, check my balances and whatnot, and I get a notification stating that there was an important message that I got to read. Right? I click on a link to try and read the message, and there's no message there. There's basically nothing there to read, and I call the bank and I says, "Oh yeah, by the way, why would you put a notification on my account that I should read a message, an important message from the bank, and then I try to click on it, and there's no message. Okay? So, anyway, the bank's stupid excuse was that they need to fix that, and they don't have any idea, what it looks like on my end, but what it was all about was know your customer, rules and regulations. The banks were following up because of the federal government again. They want to identify who's a terrorist and who's not. And, like Miss Ann Liegey, there's not a whole lot of money that goes through my CitiBank account because we've been cutting back more and more on the amount of activity that we use that account for. In other words, we don't keep the balances very high. We don't keep as many accounts open with Citibank because they've been completely incompetent. We've been moving more and more accounts, closing. We had a number of accounts with Citibank. We still have a few left, but they're not going to last very long. I'll close them soon as well. But we've had more accounts with Citibank before. Now we have less because of their incompetence. Anyway, Miss Ann Liegey, she got the notices in the mail, and because she didn't understand what Know Your Customer was and whether or not it was a scam or whatever, she didn't respond quickly enough, obviously, and they decided to close her accounts. So the accounts indeed were closed, and she had to notify she had to call the bank and answer a series of questions. Just like I did, I had to fill out these forms. Eventually, I got some forms, and I filled them out, and I faxed them in, or sent them in electronically as an attachment or whatever on a secure Citibank website. I send them in. Somebody would look at them, send them back with a stupid explanation as far as why it wasn't accepted or something, and I would fill it out again according to the instructions, and they would send it back with another stupid explanation in terms of why it's coming back to me. And this went back and forth a few times, and we finally got it resolved. But it's to know your customer rules and regulations. Now, I just want to tell you guys, if you really want to resolve issues of money laundering, for instance, with large banks, the majority of the money laundering is not committed by people with an average balance of $300 or $400, $500. It's committed by people who have millions and tens of millions of dollars, even billions of dollars. These people, they run drug cartels, and they basically use the banks like their own personal piggy bank. So that's probably where the IRS and where the Treasury and where all these organizations should go to really put a dent in the problem. HSBC, CitiBank, Wells Fargo, who else? HSBC, CitiBank, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, Chase. These banks are the ones that are doing a majority of the money laundering on behalf of the drug cartels. I've done extensive blogging and writing of articles and podcasts and such about the significant amounts of money that have been flowing through the banking system on behalf of the drug cartels and such. And amazingly, even when these guys do get caught, they just get a slap on the wrist as compared to the amount of money that they're actually laundering, helping the drug cartels launder through the banking system. So it's amazing to me that the people who don't hardly have any money in these banks, the people like maybe you and I, as compared to the drug launderers and the money cartel, and the drug launderers and the drug cartels, they have shitloads of money, and they're the ones that are part of the problem because the amount of money involved, right? And the amount of drugs that ultimately are involved that get moved back and forth because of the amounts of money. So anyway, Miss Liegey and others are getting trapped in this know your customer rules and regulations. And by the way, she moved her account to some other bank called Apple Bank, and I think Manhasset, New York. I don't know much about that community or whatever, but that's what happened with her. She's now with Apple. I think Apple Bank. I think it's what it's called. But yeah, see, when you have Bitcoin, this is the problem. When you have Bitcoin, and eventually we'll get to the point where we can send and receive and totally bypass the banking system. But when you have Bitcoin and a Bitcoin wallet, and I have one, you can send me a ton of money directly, and I can send you a ton of money directly, whether or not I'm 2 feet in front of you or 50,000 miles away from you. It doesn't matter. We don't have to worry about the intermediaries. We don't have to worry about the know your customer rules and regulations that pretend like we're the money launderers. We're the tax evaders. We're the people that are contributing to the billions of dollars in tax fraud and tax evasion and money laundering and bribery and all of that. If you saw as many scandals in the banking sector as I read about every day, because I make it my business to stay on top of these things, you would say, you know what? The system is broken. I don't care about rules and regulations from FinCEN out of New York or whatever. I don't care what the Treasury is saying in a newspaper or whatever about what they're trying to do. The system is inherently broken. And there is major incentive to for these guys to continue to use this system as a means of doing every nefarious activity that they want to do. If you're a banker, if you're a drug cartel, if you want to bribe a foreign government, if you want to, I don't care what it is, pretty much. I've seen every single type of crime committed on major scales in the banking sector over and over again. And again, the fines and the penalties are tiny. Nobody goes to jail. Very rarely does anybody go to jail. And if someone does go to jail, it's a scapegoat on a lower level. It's a lower level scapegoat. It's not a top level executive. Okay, you're not gonna find people at the top from CitiBank or J.P. Morgan Chase or Wells Fargo or HSBC or UMB or whoever. They're not gonna. Those guys aren't gonna be the one resigning. If Jamie Dimon resigned, if the guy who runs Citibank or Wells Fargo ever resigned or stepped down, I would be totally surprised. And these are the companies that Warren Buffett and a lot of these major investors are investing in. Okay, so talk about being hypocritical, especially when it comes to Bitcoin. These guys are major hypocrites in terms of why they say Bitcoin is a problem as compared to the legal criminal activity that goes on between the government and the banks and organized crime. So anyway, I'm going to associate like I typically do a very comprehensive article in terms of what happened with Ann Liegey and some other innocent people who got caught up in the know your customer rules and regulations, and how they were flagged as terrorists, potential terrorists, and what they did to resolve their problems. But just so you guys will know, you have been forewarned. This is something that's going to increase, not decrease, but increase. You will be monitored, tracked, and surveilled, and even though you're giving your bank your money, once you do that, you're going to be treated like the criminal. Okay, I don't care if it's $50 of typical activity in your bank account or $200 or whatever it is. Once you sign over your money and give it to these guys, they're going to use it against you to complicate your life as much as possible. So you better figure out what's happening with the traditional banking system and the traditional financial system, and you better start looking at the Bitcoin and the other cryptos and blockchain and try and figure out what is so compelling and what is so threatening about the way we handle money as compared to what these retards in the traditional banking system, what they're doing with the money, and how they are going to keep you under scrutiny and make your life stressful as possible, as often as possible. Anyway, I'm going to conclude this particular podcast, and hopefully the article will explain even more in detail about some of the personal experiences that these people had, because I've been there and done that. I know full well, dealing with banks, dealing with credit card issuers, dealing with other sectors in the banking system. Whether it's Visa, MasterCard, American Express, or this was Fargo, CitiBank, I know too well, because over the last 20 years, 25 years almost, I've been teaching these idiots how to do security. There have been instances where people have been taking advantage of the lax security at CitiBank, for instance, and I had to tell them about Nigerian scam artists using printed checks to try and access my accounts, and why Citibank should have done a better job and how they could do a better job in the future. So I've been there, done that, processed way too many credit cards, gave assistance to too many banks, including Wells Fargo and Citibank, about how to protect against fraudulent credit card transactions, okay? Because I don't just process transactions automatically with my website. I check them manually. I actually call a bank. I actually call a credit union. I actually call the institutions myself to verify who these customers are that are trying to order from me if I suspect that there is an issue. Anyway, I got a chance to learn firsthand how to deal with security, and I learned so much, and it's pitiful. And trust me, if you knew what I knew, you wouldn't have a dime in a bank. Or it's just ridiculous. Anyway, I'm going to let you guys go. You guys have a great day, and stay safe out there. Bye.